Greetings sailors and welcome to Still Not CK2, and I knew I wasn't going to get that done today because, well, I just haven't had the time. Thursdays are always a bit busier for me, so that's tomorrow instead, provided I don't sleep horribly again. So, this is the Flint, the USS Flint. This is basically an Atlanta, and this is what you got for reaching rank 1 in the 4th season of Ranked Battles. Now, it's not quite a clone of the Atlanta. There are some differences. I haven't been able to look up stats. I don't actually have the tech tree mod that lets me look up ones that you can't normally see in the tech tree, which is kind of handy when you're doing videos like these. But I do know two things. One is it has 9.2 kilometers on its torpedoes, so that immediately is more useful than the Atlanta, although possibly they are slower than the Atlanta's torps, or they do less damage or something like that, because that's how Wargaming likes to cook these things. And the other big one is that instead of infinite defensive AA, as the Atlanta gets, this thing can smoke. Now, in most of the regards, it basically appears to be an Atlanta. It's got a lot of those 127mm, is it 5-inch guns? I think 5-inch guns. Or is it 4-inch guns? I can't remember. Destroyer guns. I've been getting very confused about this recently, about the conversion from millimeters to inches. It does my head in. Imperial measurements I do not get at all, even though I'm British and I should in theory. So one of the things with the Atlanta is it's terrible at fighting over open water, and Necondus here, who sent this in, is going to find this out. He's going to find out just how squashy this thing is, but he's also going to find out that it's very good at killing destroyers. He did say in his email, by the way, he does not have an Atlanta, so this entire playstyle is new to him. Now, the thing with the Atlanta is, like I said, fights terribly over open water. What it does do, however, exceptionally well, is hide behind islands and lob lots and lots and lots of HE shells, and of course the Flint is no different. However, because this thing gets smoke charges, instead of having to find islands, you can create your own cover, albeit on a temporary basis. Now, this is useful, obviously, but if there are destroyers nearby, smoke clouds are obviously a big, shoot torpedoes here side. However, in this case, that's an American destroyer who I think is probably still on his torpedo reload, because we already saw that wave of torps that came out earlier. So the Farragut's down, which is great, but he's lost most of his health in the process, and this is why this thing is so bad at fighting over open water. For one thing, it has got terrible range, and it's a light cruiser. It just doesn't have the armour. Now, he did say his captain skills are, what was it, basic firing training, so he's got the full rate of fire you can get on the Atlanta. Basics of not survivability. The one that lets you keep moving, the rank 2 skill. For rank 3, I can't even remember. And for rank 4, he's actually got demo expert rather than AFT, which, okay, you sacrifice like, what is it, almost 2 extra kilometers of range, or maybe slightly over 2 extra kilometers of range, by not having AFT in the Atlanta, or the Flint in this case. But Demo Expert is still actually pretty useful to have on an Atlanta, because the sheer number of shells you put out means that that extra bit of fire chance with every single shell is going to add up, at least over time. I did notice another thing, by the way. The smoke that the Atlanta, I'm going to keep doing that, the smoke that the Flint puts down seems to last for a reasonably long time. And actually the radar seems to last for a long time as well. And I don't know, I'd have to, I've got the Atlanta, I'd have to look up how long the Atlanta's radar lasts though. But I'd guess it's the same radar that the Atlanta and the Indianapolis have. It's about 8.5 kilometers, so it's useful at closer ranges, but it's never going to spot a Kagero dropping at 15 kilometers or whatever. So this smoke is surely going to go soon. He's got to get to cover, basically, because if he's still sat here when the smoke dissipates, and I think that's it just about going, then he's going to be in serious trouble. Now, that was the Minikaze's torps we saw in the water there. The only thing that can really shoot him at the moment would be that York, although the shores, or stores, I never quite know how to say that, might have shots from where he is. This is, of course, not the only cruiser that can sit behind islands and lob shells, but it's the one that does it by far the best, and it really is the entire playstyle of this ship. So that's a Myoko, and that's dangerous, because those things have got very nasty 8-inch guns. And don't ask me what that is in millimeters. I could not tell you. I got very confused earlier when I was talking about... I was typing angrily in the chat about one of the German battleships, one of the new ones, and I won't say which. But I was like, oh my god, it's only got, you know, whatever inch guns, and it's got less guns than its contemporaries. And then someone was like, actually, no, I think you'll find those are bigger guns than you think they are. Because X millimeters is Y inches. And I was like, oh, yeah. God damn it, imperial measurements. Thank God we don't use pounds, shillings, and pence anymore. It would be hopeless. I'd fall over myself every time I went to the shops, probably. So, he's survived, but he's down to 6,500 health. Yeah, that's not super great, but don't worry, we're not done yet. He's got... Actually, is that 3 kills so far? It's a little hard to tell from the preview window. 3, yes, it is 3 kills. He's got the 3 enemy kills. No one else has killed anything yet. That number's going to get higher. That number is going to get rather significantly higher. Let's see if you can guess how much higher that number is going to get. And all on 6,500 health. This is going to be one of those games where somebody seemingly has a very rough start and then somehow manages to walk away with a completely ridiculous result. And, well, I've seen Circon do it often enough, although he has to work at it. And I don't know if this is quite, you know, the equivalent of Circon level play in World of Warships, but on the other hand, getting to rank 1 in the ranked battles, it took a certain amount of persistence and skill. So Necondus here can't be a completely terrible player. So he's taking a little bit of a risk here, but he's also, I think, very quickly grasping the essentials of the Atlanta/Flint game. In that you just basically use cover and be a total dick to everyone by firing over that cover. Although it doesn't look like he's going to get that York just now. So after all that excitement at the start, we've got 2 cap circles and about equal numbers on each team. And if you can take down the York, well, obviously that brings it slightly back in their favour. And it's a little bit risky, this, but I mean, the York has decided to point his guns elsewhere, and so this, with the rate of fire this thing has, this gives him ample opportunity to just pump out wave after wave after wave of shells. And there we go. Quite the kill secure, but you know, I did say he was going to get a lot of kills, and sometimes that requires a fair bit of kill securing. So once again, behind an island. And, well, he's probably unspotted by this point unless there's a destroyer nearby. The enemy team does still have 2 of them. One of the good points of both this and the Atlanta is that they have a rather low base detection range. And, of course, both of these have got free premium camo as well. So with that, it's something like 10.7 kilometers. And bear in mind that this is a tier 7 ship. You can't fit a concealment module to it, because the Atago you can get down to being very stealthy as well, but it requires the use of a concealment module and camo and the captain skill. If you have the captain skill on this thing, you could probably get it to less than 10 kilometers detection range. So the torps are going to come in handy, or well, they could potentially come in handy here, because the longer range means that with obviously the Atlanta's 4.5 kilometer torps, this would be a complete waste of time. However, 9.2 kilometer torps are rather more useful. So the enemy team has started, in fact they're just about to finish capping B, and that is going to mean they're in danger of catching up on points, especially if they get more kills. However, there are a fair few low health enemies, and well, there's a fair few high health enemies around as well, but no one's at just, you know, full health, which is a good thing. So his killing his speed does not want to pull out broadside. They don't necessarily know he's here, although he has just been air spotted by somebody's spotter plane, so okay, that's a bit of a giveaway. Now the fact that he's here is now known to the enemy team. Bear that in mind, and especially bear that in mind when you see what one of their battleships is going to do. So that's 5 kills. That's a Kraken Unleashed, which is well, for the Warships players, I hardly need to say it's the equivalent of a Top Gun, but, you know, if you're a World of Tanks player, you might not know what all these things are. It's pretty decent. You know, you've killed 5 out of 12 players. You've killed nearly half the enemy team. It's not bad going if you get one of those. But, yeah, he's still facing a fair number of enemies, and they're down to him and 3 allies, and everyone's looking rather beat up. So it rather looks like the enemy team is on top at the moment. I mean, they could still pull this around, but they're going to have to work hard to do it. So, hello, that's a battleship. That's a Congo. And he knows that Necondus is here. And possibly he doesn't know the Flint, but if he knows the Atlanta, he'd know that, well, even the Atlanta could torpedo at this range. This is extremely risky. And of course, with the smoke and the radar, deploying them all in combination means he's stealthed, and he knew exactly when this guy was going to come around the corner. So, there we go. That has just bumped up his damage count by a considerable margin, and actually has also equalised the team list as well. So while he's got this smoke, he can, in fact, still make use of it to shoot at some of those cruisers. Except, well, I was sitting here initially thinking, why isn't he shooting the Myoko? It's only 11.5 kilometres. Of course, without AFT, it's 11.1 kilometres for these guns. So that's why AFT is pretty useful. But without it, it's still workable. It's just a lot harder work. So at this point, he switches to AP shells. You might be thinking, why? Why would you switch to AP, the destroyer caliber AP? Well, a lot of people do not give the destroyer caliber AP enough credit, and in the Atlanta especially, getting broadsides of enemy cruisers at this kind of range, and he obviously knows his business or he's watched videos of Atlanta games or whatever, being this close and getting broadsides, you can pen and you can get citadels, and just again, because you can put out so many shells, you can wreck other cruisers really hard. Now, it's not going to be the massive not Crittadel. God damn it! That somebody used that word the other day. It's not a real word, Ektar. I'm sorry, it's just not. Anyway, people who watched the Poland, the Warships final, not the World of Tanks final with the Warships match tacked on, will know that, yeah, anyway, yes, apparently that has actually caught on in some quarters. Citadels, anyway, with something like the Kirov, or one of the 8-inch gun cruisers, and you just sit broadside to somebody and pow, 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 and you'll wipe them out of the water with like 6 citadels in one go. It's not going to be quite like that, but you can still shave off somebody's health really quickly with those AP shells, especially if you get citadels. Now, obviously, they're only destroyer citadels, but still, it adds up quickly. So this guy's guns were pointed completely the wrong way, because it was a really nice ambush by Necondus here, although there is a risk that this guy quickly gets torpedoes out in the water. He's got to be careful of that. But it looks like he is safe. Okay, that's good. That just leaves a Myoko. Now, he does have one ally left, which is, I think it was a Stors, I'm not sure. I did look around when I was reviewing this replay. He's only got about 300 health left himself, so that's why he's being so cautious and staying to the north. And it's not like Necondus has a lot of health left either, but 6,000 versus 300, I mean, he can afford to take a hit, whereas that remaining cruiser on his team really can't. So that guy was firing HE, and possibly he's now got AP queued up, but again, this is where the smoke comes in handy, and the radar. Now, actually, having said that, maybe this radar lasts a really long time. I don't think it does. But it's long enough, because, I mean, his ally in the cruiser is lighting this guy up intermittently, but of course this is the problem when you put down smoke, is it blocks your line of sight as well as theirs. So this is why this guy keeps disappearing, even though he's at really close range. So the radar's run down. This is the last smoke's charge. It's actually just on the edge of the smoke now. By the way, if you are unaware, these days, by default in the client, you can turn on these smoke rings. You don't need a mod for that anymore. They only show up as rings on the water at close range, but still, it's really useful. So again, broadside and again AP shells. This guy is probably putting out torpedoes into the smoke, so it's a matter of, can he kill this guy fast enough, because otherwise he's in serious danger of taking a torpedo to the face. And look at these citadels. Now, he's just eating this guy alive with the AP. And one more. Come on. There we go. So with the Kirov, I mean, or the Molotov, with that kind of situation, when you're that close to somebody, you could wipe out them, wipe a lot of health off with, you know, fewer shots. But it's the sheer volume of fire with the Atlanta and the Flint that really, you know, make it work when it does. Because sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's terrible. On some maps it sucks. But this time it worked really well. And considering this was one of his, you know, not his first battle, but one of his first battles in this thing, I think Necondus did pretty well there. 3,500 base XP isn't half shabby, even counting the capping XP. And this is by far more damage than I've ever managed in by Atlanta, even though, well, I've done like 95k, but a lot of that was fire damage. And actually, in this case, it wasn't a lot of fire damage. He did get gifted that Congo, but even so, he absolutely, despite being on low health, you know, he learned very quickly not to fight over open water, to use cover, to be sneaky, to ambush. And having those extra torpedo, or having that extra torpedo range, wasn't actually that useful in this one, but, you know, potentially could be. But more than that, the smoke, the ability to create your own cover, I think was a bit of a clincher, actually. It really did come in useful at critical moments in this game. So there you go, the USS Flint. I came nowhere close to having one myself. I think I got to like rank 16, something like that. Maybe next time round I'll have a more concerted effort at the ranked battles, but usually it's just a case of not having enough time. So, unless Wargaming was kind enough to just, you know, give me the reward ship, it's possibly unlikely I'll get any more of these in future. But, you know, this one seems like a good reward. It seems like a ship that would be worth having at the end of having gone through all the pain to get to rank 1. So, if you liked this look at the USS Flint, you can hit the like button. You can leave any comments below, you can sub to my channel if you aren't already, and as always, stay tuned for more.